Hello, welcome back. I'm so happy that you're here. It is episode 2 of Born to Be All of Me, the podcast. My name is Amber Susa, and I'm really happy that you're here with me. Today, I was thinking I wanted to talk about learning how to trust yourself. So, if you're like me, you grew up seeking external validation for everything. I was not encouraged to go within and learn how to listen to my inner voice. Like that just wasn't something that people talked about when I was a kid. It wasn't something that my parents were taught either. In fact, our entire culture and society has been based on external validation, like outsourcing our knowing, right? Like your doctor knows best, your parents know best, your teachers know best. Nobody has ever said, guess what? You know best. Like imagine, right? Imagine if you were a little kid and your mom was like, I don't know, sweetheart, you know best. Why don't you go sit down and get quiet and listen to that little voice inside? Can you imagine that? I try to do that with my kids. It's hard, because you do think that you know best as a parent. But the truth is that ultimately we all have this internal guidance system. We all have this inner knowing, and we just haven't learned how to listen and how to trust it. So for the majority of my life, I would ask people, well, what do you think I should do? What do you think the right thing to do is? Should I go out with this guy? Should I try out for the dance, thing? Should I do this? Should I do that? Never going within, just getting quiet and asking a question and then just waiting in stillness until the answer came. So this is something that I have fostered over the last 10 years through the practice of meditation. And I talked in episode 1 about how I was reintroduced to meditation. Did not love it, did not love it. The opposite of loved it. But the thing that I started to experience was being able to hear my inner voice. And I was like, wow, this is exciting. It felt like I was accessing a part of myself that I didn't even know was there. Or on some deep soul level, I knew that it was there. I just hadn't ever learned how to cultivate it and nourish that relationship. And it really is a relationship. Just like every other relationship that we have in our life, we have to nourish it and nurture it and cultivate it and give attention to it and spend time with the person that we are in relationship with. And so that is the same for our soul, our inner voice, our inner knowing, especially when we've spent our entire lives outsourcing. The other thing is I spent all my life having what felt like conflicting inner voices, right? So I would have a voice that would say, oh, you should do this. But then I would have another voice that would say, no, you shouldn't do that. So it was very confusing. I didn't really understand it. One was clearly more negative and fear-based. I didn't use those words back then, but I can look back on it and say, oh yeah, one of the voices is definitely more fear-based, more, like protecting. And the other voice was more confident, more free, more what I now can see as in alignment with who I truly am. I wrote and performed a one-woman show a year ago, and I grew up performing. It was one of the things that I was naturally drawn to. I just loved it. I loved being on stage. I loved expressing myself. I think I always knew that I had an excess amount of emotion and feelings, and I needed an outlet. I needed a way to express it and to get it out. And performing and acting it felt like a safe way to be able to express myself and to, yeah, like feel all the feelings that lived inside of me, but through a character that felt safe. And, I've talked a lot. If you've been following me, you've heard me talk a lot about ego and soul. And this is only something that I have come to understand in my years of trying to make sense of my life, trying to make sense of the choices that I've made, of the inner voices that felt like they were conflicting. And I believe that we all have core wound stories and experiences in our childhood, um, that stand out and that were incredibly impactful and helped us really form an identity. And this often comes from an ego place. So our ego's role is to protect us and keep us safe. And so I share about this in my one woman show, that one of the first times that I can really remember clearly was when I was 12 years old. I got the lead in a musical. I was Daisy May and Little Abner. I had never performed on stage other than at the local Parks and Rec dance recitals. I'd never done anything. I'd never sung. I'd never taken singing lessons. So my mom signed me up for the Long Beach Summer Youth Conservatory. It was like a summer program, and it was musical theater, and they were going to be choosing a musical, and we all got to audition. And I auditioned for the role of Daisy May, and I got it. And it was magical. Like, even today, I was 12, and I can even today like close my eyes and go back and just be in that experience. I remember so clearly being on this big, huge stage and feeling the lights on my face and singing my heart out. And it was just absolutely magical. I absolutely loved it. And the next year I went back and I auditioned again. And then the show they were doing that year was Bye Bye Birdie. And I got the lead again. I got Kim in Bye Bye Birdie. And that year, I somehow found out, overheard, that one of the moms of the other girls who had auditioned had complained to the director that I had gotten the lead 2 years in a row, that she didn't think that was fair to the other girls. And, this was like a paid summer camp. So the parents were paying for their kids to do this. And I guess they just didn't think it was fair that the same girl got the lead in 2 years in a row. And I remember the sense of just wanting to shrink, wanting to hide, feeling devastated that somebody was judging me, was criticizing me, was unhappy that I had gotten the lead. And I just wanted to run away and hide and cry. And I did the role. I did the show. They didn't change. They didn't change their mind. They didn't, take me out of the lead and put somebody else in. But I do remember that my experience was very, very different than the first year. I did not feel that sense of freedom. I did not feel the same magic that I had experienced the first year. And I believe it was because my ego self was activated. And in my show, I create these characters in my show, ego and soul. So ego is like this Joe Pesci character who's like, hey, listen, you're going to get whacked if you don't watch yourself. You got to watch your back. And in my show, when he's introduced, he comes in at that time when I got the lead for the second year in the row. And he introduces himself to me and says, yo, Amber, my name is Ego. Listen, I'm here to protect you, keep you safe, help you belong. First of all, whatever you do, do not stand out. Don't get too much attention. Dim your light. You must fit in. Otherwise, people won't like you and you'll be alone forever. So that is what ego said to me. And I will tell you what I have come to know for myself and really for every human being is that being accepted, being liked, being loved, belonging is the most important thing. And so if something threatens that, or causes us to feel like that's somehow in danger, that we're somehow in danger of losing someone's affection or love or care or adoration or acceptance, ego steps in and it's like, hey, listen, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you're about to lose people. People aren't not going to like you. You're not going to belong. You're not going to fit in. This is dangerous. And so ego says, listen, this is what I'm going to tell you to do. You're going to dim your light. You're going to turn down the volume. You're not going to be your authentic self because you need people to like you, right? So this is kind of the voice of that character that I took on. And it caused me to, out of my desperate need and desire to belong, to fit in, and to be liked, I dimmed my light. I dimmed my light and I didn't want to shine so brightly. I didn't want to stand out anymore. I just wanted to be like everybody else. And the thing about that is I had abandoned my soul self, because my soul self was like, I'm here to shine. I'm here to stand out, right? She's this British character. Her character is more like Glinda the Good Witch. And everything is wonderful and you're here and you're lovely and you're here to shine. And nothing's, don't worry about what other people think. And you're here to inspire people. Like, that's her voice, right? Her job is not to protect me from other people not liking me. Her job is to help me expand and grow and come into alignment with my most true, authentic self. Ego, his job is to keep me safe. And so for many, many years, I spent like this, I felt so conflicted. Who's telling the truth? What should I do? So that also is, it causes you to outsource. Well, what do you think I should do? I'm confused. I got one voice telling me to dim my light, turn it down, shut it down, don't stand out. And I have this other voice telling me that I'm here to shine, that I'm here to stand out. And that's what I was born to do. And so who's right? And will I belong? And will I be loved? And will I be accepted? And I did everything I could to avoid being alone. I adapted, I morphed, I dimmed, and I ended up feeling incredibly alone. And when I arrived at the place I did 10 years ago with severe and debilitating low back pain, I was forced into a meditation practice because that's what my soul knew I needed at the time in order to come back into alignment with who I was born to be. Now, I will tell you what I know for sure. If you are ever going to live the life that you were born to live and be who you were born to be, to really be all of who you were born to be, you're going to have to learn how to listen and to hear the voice of your soul, your authentic self, your higher self, whatever word resonates, and discern when ego is really there to like legitimately keep you safe from harm, or just there to keep you safe from what is perceived as unsafe, which ego perceives anything that is new or different or outside of what you've been living as unsafe. So any time that you're like, hey, I think I'm ready to evolve, ego's like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, no, no. We're not here to evolve. We're just here to be safe. That's it. And soul's like, no, no, we're here to evolve. Right? So it's up to you. If it's working for you to live basing your choices on what ego is telling you, then great. But if you're like me and that was no longer working for you and you felt like there was something missing, then you're gonna have to learn how to trust that inner voice. And it is a muscle. It's a trust muscle, and it takes practice. It takes practice saying yes to something that you have no idea what's on the other side. And then only in retrospect are you able to say, huh, okay, that worked out. I didn't die. Nothing went terribly wrong, right? I think I'm going to try that again. And so it has been my experience that each time I say yes, or each time I express a desire or an intention to evolve to the next version of me, there are breadcrumbs put in front of me to follow. There are signs and there are synchronicities. So, for example, when I was at my first studio, the high intensity Pilates and fitness studio, where I had my spiritual awakening and started to want to introduce my high intensity members to meditation and the mind body connection. And it was becoming more and more obvious that it needed its own space, right? That I needed to create something else for people to be able to come when they wanted to meditate, when they wanted to talk about spirituality and personal development and evolution and expansion. So anyway, long story short, I wrote all the details in my book. If you want to grab my book, it's Born to Be All of Me, Moving Out of Self-Abandonment into Authentic Embodiment. It's available on Amazon. It was a bestseller. Anyway, what happened was I got a phone call out of the blue, not expecting this phone call, from my hairstylist. Now, she owned a hair salon in Redondo Beach, the Riviera Village, this lovely, charming little kind of downtown area. And she called me and she said, "Hey, Amber, the business next door to me is closing down. And I thought of you. Are you considering opening up a second location?" Now, I had not told anyone that this was something that was stirring inside of me. But that's how it works, right? That's how it works. The universe knows when you're ready, and the universe presents these opportunities for you and gives you these messages. And if you're courageous enough to listen, then you get to kind of keep going down that path. The place that she was calling me about was a corner lot, 1 block from the ocean, with big windows and an ocean view. Spectacular. It needed a lot of work, but the location was unbelievable. And it was everything that I had dreamt of. I'm telling you this story because this kind of thing happens all the time if you're willing to listen. I've had so many times where I have had a desire or I have had an intention, and then I get an opportunity that comes from somewhere unexpected. But it only comes if you're really willing to get still, get quiet, listen, and trust that inner voice. So if you're at a place in your life where you know there's more, you know there's more, you know that you were born for something, and you're not quite living all of who you were born to be. Trust that. Trust that. Okay. I'm going to tell you this also because a lot of people are like, well, it must have been easier for you. Sometimes when you compare yourself to other people, you're like, oh, it must be easier for them. It's just easier for them. And I'm going to tell you, that's not necessarily the case. Okay. I had people in my life and in my world that thought I was absolutely crazy. I was accused of having a midlife crisis. I've been accused of believing in a utopia that doesn't exist. I have been accused of being all kinds of things. Impractical, unrealistic, selfish, delusional, a bad business person. making the worst business decision anyone could ever make, on and on and on and on. Okay. But I had cultivated my relationship with the voice of my soul to the point where I knew it was real. Like the call felt so strong that even though other people were telling me that I was crazy for wanting to open up another studio where I taught meditation, where I taught about the mind body connection, where I spoke about spirituality and transformation and evolution, um, I knew that I was being called into that experience. And so it gave me the courage. It was not easy. I'm not saying it's been easy. It has not been an easy path. And I have had to let go of people in my life. That happens when you say yes to the evolution and expansion of your soul. There will be people in your life that will fall away. That's just the nature of it. And if you're like me, I fought that for the majority of my life. I didn't want to have to change. I didn't want to have to lose people. I was terrified of being alone. So I just morphed and adapted into who I thought other people wanted me to be so that I could avoid being alone. And I tried to be happy. I tried to be content with the life that everybody told me would make me happy. Isn't that crazy? Like, think about when you were a kid. Like, what were you told? Well, go to school, get good grades, be a good girl, go to college, pick something to be that's practical and realistic where you can make a living, stay at that job for a long time until you retire, get married, have children, buy a house. Like, none of that includes find something that you absolutely cannot live without doing. Find something that you absolutely love. Do the thing that you were born naturally being good at. Nobody said that. They were like, go to college, get a job, then retire, then get married. Like, nobody said, go within. You have all the answers. You were born for something. You have a soul assignment. You have a divine assignment. You're here for a reason, a unique purpose. So this is what's happening now on the planet. We are changing. We are evolving. And there is a new paradigm that is here. And what it's saying is, hey, guess what? All that stuff that you learned growing up, yeah, no, that's not what we're doing anymore. Now we're going to start going within, listening to our unique soul purpose, and then living that, showing up and being authentic. No more self-abandoning, right? I talked about Dr. Gabor Mate in the last episode, and his work has been profound because it explained something that I experienced that I didn't understand, the whole attachment authenticity. And how it's been for us is attachment first, right? Like, find people to belong to. Doesn't matter if you're authentic to your soul self. Just find people to belong to and make sure that you do everything you can to not have them leave you, right? To avoid being alone. And so most of us have lived this life with the goal of, let me just belong. Let me just not be alone, right? So now what we're being asked to do is, okay, cool, got it. Yes, belonging is still incredibly important. However, if you have not come to a place where you truly know who you are and you don't have a sense of belonging to yourself, you're never going to feel completely fulfilled. You're always going to be in the state of self-abandonment to some extent. So we're being asked to flip it, right? So before it was find people to belong to, and then if it feels safe, then maybe be your true self. So now it's like, no, be your true self. And then the people that you are meant to belong with will come into your world. And it takes a lot of courage. And I'm not going to say I haven't felt alone a lot. I have. I have. It is not always the easy path, and it can be a very lonely path. However, the feeling of belonging to yourself is worth it to me. It's worth it to me. And so I continue to go within, right? Here's the other thing, you guys, it's not always going to make sense what the next breadcrumb is. So when I opened All of Me, I felt that was my divine assignment with every fiber of my being. And I believe it was a soul divine assignment. That doesn't mean it's meant to be forever, right? That's another thing that's so crazy about what we're taught. We're taught that we're supposed to be in things forever, be in relationships forever, be in jobs forever. Like, no, where's the evolution and expansion in that? Right? So we're not. We're meant to evolve. We're meant to change. We're meant to grow. And our soul purpose and divine assignment is also meant to manifest in different ways depending on the chapter of our life. Right? So each version, each iteration of ourselves is going to have a different way that our divine assignment is manifested. Does that make sense? So at the time, All of Me, my studio, holistic health and healing sanctuary, that was my divine assignment, right? Then I got to a place after running the studio for 5 years, my soul had learned all the things that it was needing to learn by being a soul entrepreneur and running a brick and mortar for 5 years. I went through COVID. I went through a divorce. I ran the business. I created a really beautiful space that helped a lot of people. And I continue to hear about stories of how people were positively impacted. So we don't always know whose lives we're going to change when we say yes. So I got to a place where my soul was saying, hey, guess what, Amber? It's time for the next version. And that meant changing. That meant more change, right? You know, you've heard the saying, like, the only thing that's constant is change. Sometimes I'm like, can I just chill for a while? Like, my soul seems to be on this accelerated path of evolution. Like, okay, cool. We learned those lessons, on to the next thing. Sometimes I'm like, can I just coast for a while? But anyway, that's not the path of my soul. So I just keep growing, I keep learning, I keep changing, and I keep saying yes. And so I got to a place where I was like, I think it's time for me to leave the brick and mortar and move into this next iteration where I get to write my book, I get to start this podcast, I get to, support more people in the online space. And that feels really good. That feels really exciting. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have the human experience of grief and loss. Just because you're listening to your soul and really following the call doesn't mean you're not going to experience sadness and loss and grief. That's just part of the human experience. And we can try to avoid that all we want. And I'm with you. I hear you. I don't like it. I don't like feeling sad, and I don't like losing people and things, and just part of life. And it's part of the evolution that your soul came here to experience. So the quicker that you can just surrender to that, the easier it will be and the less resistance that you'll experience. So I find myself in a constant state of surrender, like, okay, what's next? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? Where would you have me go? Who would you have me help? Allow me to be of service in the highest way possible, using all of my gifts and knowledge and wisdom. And today's a new day, and tomorrow, who knows, right? So I wanted to share that with you. If you are curious about diving into who's talking, soul or ego, I have a free 12-page journal. It's called the Born to Be All of Me Journal. And I created the 6 steps to authentic embodiment. And it's in my book, but I created this journal from that. And you can go to the website. It's allami.com, ALLOM as in Mary I.com. And you can just click on the free downloadable journal and it will take you through the steps. And one of the steps is going to have you do this little exercise to differentiate and distinguish and discern whose voice is running the show. And I have Joe Pesci and Glenda the Good Witch. You might have somebody totally different. That's totally fine. I just use that as an example for you. And it seems to work for me. So that's what I got for today. Start to go within, start to listen, start to trust the inner knowing. You are here for a reason. If you are feeling like you are here for more, you are. You are. Here's another thing. Find people who are on this path. I have had coaches and mentors and groups and communities that I have worked with and been supported by and been accountable to for the entire 10 years that I've been on this journey. I don't know that I would have been able to say yes to all the things I've said yes to if I didn't have support. Because God knows I had people in my life that were like, you're crazy. What are you doing? So they were reflecting my insecurities. And so I needed people that were going to amplify my soul's voice and validate and confirm, yes, you are hearing it accurately. You are hearing it correctly. That is the voice of your soul. Yes, do that. Take that step. Follow that breadcrumb. We don't get to know the whole picture. We have to get used to taking one step at a time without seeing the big picture. I'll leave you with this. A gal that I work with, who I coach, she used the analogy of a puzzle box. Like you buy a puzzle and you can see on the cover, you can see the whole picture. So as you're doing your puzzle, you can look at the cover and be like, oh, that's what it's going to look like. Well, we want to have the puzzle box. Like we want that picture, right? We want the guarantee. If I put this piece of the puzzle in, is it going to end up looking like that? And guess what? That's not how it works. That's not how it works. So we get one piece of the puzzle at a time, and it will start to fit into the other pieces that you've already laid down, but you don't get to see the cover of the box. You can have an idea of it. You can have a vision of it, and it will ultimately most likely surprise you and continue to evolve into something maybe even greater than you have imagined. So say yes to the inner voice. Start meditating. There's plenty of meditation teachers. There's plenty of free meditations online. Find somebody. Reach out to me. Find an app. Start spending time cultivating your relationship with your inner voice. Take one step at a time. Find people that are on this path that are taking the same steps, right? We all need people to be inspired by, that we can look to and say, okay, they're doing it and they seem to be okay and they seem to be really happy and they seem to be fulfilled and I want that. Find those people that have what you want and start following them. Start asking them questions, being in their world, right? And then also the people that are the skeptics and the naysayers, the ones that are criticizing the things that you want to create, look at their life. Are they living a life that you would like to live? Are they fulfilled, happy? Are they in alignment with the soul purpose? It's interesting, just pay attention. Pay attention to the messenger and find people that inspire you. Find people that are living the life that you would like to live, your own unique version of that life. All right, so stay tuned for episode 3. I'm so excited. I've got some really amazing people on the book. So we'll do a combo of some solo episodes and also some amazing people to come in, because I want to be a source of inspiration to you through my own story. And I also want to introduce you to the people that I am incredibly inspired by. So keep going, keep listening, follow the breadcrumbs, get still, go within. You have all the answers. Okay, until next time, love you, friends.